Hey everyone, I just finished Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped, or at least I just finished recording it, and I do look forward to editing it, but I thought I'd take this moment to talk a little bit about my overall impression of the entire N Sane Trilogy as a whole. Kind of like I did with We Happy Few, because this is a huge milestone for my channel, because this is one of the games that I grew up with, and since I started my new channel, I knew that I knew that this was going to be a huge series for me. Both this and Spyro, which I haven't even started yet, but it is installing now. Look at this. See that? Can you? I don't know how well you can see that. How well can you see that? You can't read it, but it's installing Spyro. So because of that, I just wanted to give my overall impression of the entire trilogy as a whole. So, first of all, my overall impression is 2 thumbs up. It was fantastic. I loved it. 10 out of 10. Would play again, and it was remarkable. But now I'm going to go into more detail on exactly why I thought it was remarkable. So, first of all, we have the controls. The controls were pretty good. I mean, they did a really good job. I don't know how they did. I don't know if they redesigned and reprogrammed all the controls from scratch or how they did that, but either way, whatever they did it very nicely, because it controlled really similar to the old games. It still had the same feel of the old games. They did a really good job of making it feel like the older games, while at the same time modernizing it and making it smoother, more fluid, and making you feel more mobile rather than, well, the old games were at a disadvantage because you had the D-pad, and that was basically your only option, but unless you're playing on a backwards compatible PS2. So, controls were very nice, very true to the original, at the same time really modernized. I liked it a lot, but they still weren't perfect. There were many times when I either underjumped something, trying to compensate for how sometimes he overjumps stuff, or I overjump stuff, trying to compensate for how sometimes he underjumps stuff. There was no rhyme or reason to that, and it was so weird. I don't know why. But either way, that's my impression of the controls, and now we'll get to one of my favorite topics, the thing I almost always say that I love in any game, the music. The music was phenomenal, and I realize it is literally a modernized version of the original score to a degree, but at the same time, it's kind of new. Like, if you listen to the what is it called? It's the night levels, I guess, Ruination bonus round music, and compare it to the original Ruination bonus round music, you will hear significant difference. So I think that the music was really good. There's 2 ways I could judge the music. I could judge the music by what it is in and of itself, or I could judge it based on how true it was to the original, but I think it kind of follows the same pattern the controls did, in that they did a good job of being really true to the original music while also modernizing it, making it freshly recording everything. You get the picture. I always love the music in games, and I've used the Ruination bonus round track in my outro sometimes. I'll probably use it for this one, but graphics, superb. I really like the graphics a lot. They did a really good job of, I don't know how to put this, realistic isn't necessarily the word. They did a good job of bringing life to everything without subtracting from the overall cartoonish look to it, and I really like that a lot. But at the same time, it kind of looks like a DreamWorks or Pixar film in a way, which is really incredible considering how fast technology to do that has moved along. Like, it used to take hours to render images like that, and now we render them in real time, which is crazy. But graphics, I loved them a lot. I really like the reflections in the future tense level toward the end of the 3rd game. I like the ripples in the water as you wade through. I don't know if you remember, clear way back in, I think Turtle Woods was the name of the level that I'm thinking of. One of the first, if not the first level of Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back. You waded through the water and there were all those ripples going everywhere. So cool. And it's such a subtle detail that just makes such a huge difference, and I love it. Okay, so next topic would be faithfulness to the source. I've already talked a little bit about this in the individual things that I've mentioned, but overall, I'm not the best person to talk to about this because I only played the original second game. What I had before was 4, but you get the picture. I only played the second game as a kid. That was the only one I had for PlayStation. But from what I could tell, it did a really good job of, as I've said, I think 3 times now, staying true to the source but modernizing it. I think it's most noticeable in the second game. Well, it's noticeable everywhere, but I think it's most noticeable in the bonus levels, how there's more forest. Like, it's not just a blank blue sky like how it was in the original. So that was cool. They really did a good job with that. And I guess I'll talk about the individual games, and my impressions of each one, because as I've said throughout the series, I never played any of the other games other than the second one. That's the third one. Why do I do this? The second one. But based on what I've seen, I'm gonna be biased toward the second game because it is the one that I grew up with, but I think it would still be my favorite anyway. I don't know for sure though, because there is the strong nostalgia value that is making me biased toward it, but it seemed to be perfect length, perfect feel. It didn't feel too rushed, too linear. It was so nice that you could just play all the levels, excuse me, play all the levels in whatever order you wanted. There's all kinds of secrets and stuff. That was really cool. And the secrets were fun to discover as well. That was something else that I felt was... It wasn't necessarily lacking, but finding secrets, if there were any, in the other 2 games. I mean, there must have been, right? Like, there must have been other secrets in the 3rd game that I missed. I feel like they were really hard to find, but... Maybe that's just my lack of skill, but that doesn't explain how I stumbled on all the secrets in the second game. So easily. So, I don't know. The boss fights in the second game are also really creative. And each one has their own pattern, their own mechanic that you have to figure out, but that's all true to the source. So, we'll move on to the games I haven't played, which would be the 1st and 3rd. I finally did this 2-handed thing right. So, first game, if I had to name a least favorite of the ones I played, it'd probably be the 1st game, to be honest. Not that it was bad. It wasn't bad. I liked it. I liked it a lot, but there were several cons that kind of subtracted from my enjoyment of it. If I die again, I'm gonna have to go all the way back to the beginning of the level and have to fight. There we go. No! 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 I missed How did I miss boxes on a straight path? Yes, there were very frustrating moments scattered throughout. I was raging my head off. Where were the 2 boxes I missed? How is that even possible? What in the world do I do? Ah! Not that. Dang it! I don't understand what I'm supposed to even do. On certain areas, it got more frustrating than it was fun. Well, that's not expected. I have 2 more chances to do this. And if I mess those up... No! It's so unpredictable! I literally just want to... I've been doing this for like 20 minutes straight. But I'm very susceptible to anger in games when I record because I feel like I'm under pressure to do well or to make sure everything's running smoothly. So if I have, you know, like all this stuff running over here while I've got, you know, the game going poorly, it just stresses me out. So I don't know what that's all about. So, ooh, gosh, my poor mic stand. Either way, first game, had a lot of rage moments. It was kind of limited because it was just a linear path. You could play the levels you'd already played or the exact next level. But that's not necessarily a bad thing because it was easy to keep track of. whereas there were several moments, as you've witnessed probably, in the third game where I completely forgot where we left off, and I had to, fumble around with the time twister buttons to try to figure out where I was or where I left off. So the linear path has its pros and cons. It's better for like an ADHD person like myself, so I can keep track of where we are, because I don't actually have to. The game does it for me. But another con was that it was kind of slow. It was kind of slow going through the game, and it was kind of slow going through the levels because you were physically slower and you had less abilities. You had less mobility. You didn't have your slide. You didn't have your slide jump. You didn't have your body slam. There was so much less options that you could do for playing the game that ordinarily made it go faster. Maybe not the body slam, but you get the picture. So lastly, the third game, definitely my second favorite. I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings about whether the second or third game is my favorite, because like I said, the second game still remains my favorite, I think, but I think it's mainly partially due to the nostalgia value. Another thing about the first game is it didn't have as much versatility in setting. You were either in the woods, or in the jungle and the temples, which in my opinion are kind of part of the whole overall overarching jungle theme, or you were in the factories, or the bridges, or the castle. Well, I guess it's kind of versatile, I guess, but nothing like the epic time travel of the third game, where you were in medieval times, then you were in the future, then you were in ancient China, all kinds of options, or you were in the ocean. There's all kinds of stuff, all kinds of different settings in the third game, which is something that I really appreciate about the third game that makes it kind of compete with the second game in my mind. I think it had kind of an interesting story. The whole time travel thing, the whole twist that Dr. Cortex was actually working for this other mask named Uka Uka that I guess we never even knew about until before then. That's an interesting concept. However, I do feel that some of the characters in the story were a tad bit underdeveloped. However, I can't hold that against the N Sane Trilogy, which is what we're talking about now, because that would have been the case with the original third game as well. So, especially the time guy. What was his name? I can't remember his name. Dr. Entropy, I think was his name. Is the guy who reminded me of Time from Through the Looking Glass. He had a really interesting character concept, but he was only there for a level. Yeah, I thought they were setting up so that Dr. Neo Cortex would compete with Dr. Entropy, which is kind of what the intro cutscene implied in my mind, but I don't know. He just felt like he could have been a really interesting character, and he didn't make as many appearances as he deserved as a character. So, now that I've got that out of the way, I already did talk about the variety of settings. I'm following along with my notes on my second monitor. But one thing I really like about, or appreciate about the third game, both of those, is the versatility. I already talked a little bit about this. I'll talk about it again. You went to medieval times, you went to the Great Wall of China, you went to the ocean, you went to the future, you went all over the place. You went to I love the Arabian levels, they were so cool. But those were genuine ninjas throwing stuff out, so they didn't quite fit, but they're ninjas, they can do whatever they want. So it had the most versatility, and I really liked it. Also had the Egyptian levels, so I don't know, it's a toss-up for me of which one was my favorite between the second and the third. I think if I didn't have the bias of my nostalgia with the second, I would pick the third game as my favorite, hands down. Also, another thing in the same vein of the versatility is the fact that this is something I appreciate about all the entire N Sane Trilogy, is that oh man, my lights are still on. Oops. Gotta turn those off. There we go. They made Coco more of a playable character, rather than just the person who says, oh, my battery's fried, go get my laptop battery. I think they had more Coco levels, obviously, in Crash 3 in the original. They really amped it up because she was more of a character you could play as in the N Sane Trilogy. So they had her levels with like the jet ski stuff and the tiger levels. Those are adorable. I love those. But they also had the racing levels with Crash, which in spite of how frustrated I got at them, they were fun. I'll admit it. I admit that the racing levels were fun. I don't think they really could have done a better job if they'd have tried. I think they actually really nailed this, and I'm not just saying that because I want to be positive or because I grew up with this game, but I honestly feel like they did a really good job with this. Like, how hard would it be to take something like from PS1 era and modernize it while still making it feel like the original, but putting a new spin on it in all the best ways? That would be impossible, but they did it. So, 2 thumbs up, 10 out of 10 Wumpas. Actually, 9.5 out of 10 because the whole thing with the controls and the over and the under jumping thing. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I loved it. I'm kind of sad it's over, but that's how every great series will be. I can now move on to other things. I have plans for the future of my channel, of course. Who doesn't have plans for the future of their channel? People's channels fail. Let's see, I'm scrolling through all my games here. So next up on my agenda, I am going to get back to Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I promise, but since I've shifted gears to Assassin's Creed Odyssey being more of a ongoing series, it's been kind of lower on my priority list because I don't feel the rush to get through it. I want to take my time with it because it's a game that in some ways forces you to play all the side missions. Not all the side missions, but it forces you to play more than just the linear story. Which kind of sucks for a Let's Player like me, but on the other hand, the game is so vast and so huge and feature rich, I can't blame them for doing that. Like, if I put all that work into my game, I'd probably want to force people to play it too. I've said that before. Where have I said that before? Do you copy part 3? I remember that now. Yeah. So, next up on my agenda is Spyro Reignited Trilogy, which is literally basically the Spyro version of what I just finished doing, and I can't wait. It wasn't as much of part of my childhood as Crash Bandicoot was, but I think I might enjoy Spyro a little bit more than Crash because it's more of like an exploration type of thing. Like the levels are more open. You can explore more. It has kind of the fantasy setting that I really get into. So, not to mention, Spyro is adorable, and he's an awesome dragon. Oh, and he's voiced by the guy who played SpongeBob, Tom Kenny, I think his name is. And he did a great Spyro. I've seen some of the cutscenes for all the Spyro games. So, or Spyro Reignited, anyway. That's what's next on my agenda. Look forward to it. And I have my sights set on Dark Side. I'm gonna, I played the Crash Bandicoot games completely out of order. I'm gonna play the Darksider game even more out of order. I'm gonna play the 3rd game first, and the 2nd game last. There's absolutely no rhyme or reason to it. Or is there? Because the 3rd one is the newest, and it's probably the one I'll enjoy the most for a number of reasons. Darksiders 1 is the one that looks least interesting to me, so I want to give myself something to look forward to if I decide to even play Darksiders 1 and 2. But either way, that's my plans for the immediate future. I also want to start a Minecraft series at some point, but that's going to be a really involved and in-depth series, so I don't know when that's going to happen, but I'd rather it happen sooner rather than later. So I guess that is all, folks. So thank you so much for watching Crash Bandicoot the N Sane Trilogy, if you did. If you were just here to hear me talk about it, then I do recommend that you check out my series on it. There's there's 2 different options that you could make use of for watching my series on the N Sane Trilogy. Option 1 is to watch it in the order that I made it, meaning you start with the 2nd game, do the 1st game next, and then end with the 3rd game. I've explained it before, but if you're just joining me, I played the 2nd game first because it's the most nostalgic, and it's the only one I grew up with. The only one I had as a kid. Option 2 is to watch them in the order that the games take place. But I would recommend the former because I imagine there's quite a few parts where I reference jokes that I made or things that happened in the second game. So if you watch the first game and then the second game, or at least my take on it, will almost feel like a prequel, while the game itself feels like a sequel, and that will be really confusing. Whereas the entire thing will feel like a prequel if you start with the second game and do it in the order that I played it. So that's all I have to say. So thank you so much for watching. Yeah, be sure to check out my Crash Bandicoot N Sane series if you haven't already. Look forward to new series that I've announced, and stay tuned for them. Click like if you enjoyed this video and the ones that I just talked about, or the games and the series that I just talked about, and hit subscribe and ring the bell to stay notified on all my future uploads in the future. Thank you so much again for watching, everyone, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.